Hi. Well, I didn't plan on doing one of these 3 days in a row, but I woke up this morning and my heart is so full that it's going to burst. And I'm very emotional and about something in particular today. And I thought I would talk to you about something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's kind of been the theme of the mystical rhinos happen and how we see each other. So, I am a middle-aged, white lady who grew up in a area with very little diversity. And I am simply, my heart hurts that we simply cannot love each other for who we are. Hi, Alexis. There's a good person that always looks at the good in people. So, anyway, and I'm a Christian. And I identify with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's where I go to church. And my heart is so frustrated today with the judgmentalness I see in people. Especially those who profess to be God-fearing Christian people. The community in which I grew up there's a church on every corner, but there are very different faiths. Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Church of Christ, Church of God, Greek. There's a Greek Orthodox Church, Roman Catholic. There's Jehovah's Witness. There's all kinds of churches here. And so I grew up in this community where most people I knew went to church of some kind, some sort of affiliation and stuff, but we were all different in that. Hi, Tracy, in our actual belief system, even though most people here are Christian. And so I want to talk about what it means to be a Christian. So, if you read the Bible, which you should read the Bible, Christ was asked, what was the greatest? Hi, Catherine. Happy retirement this week. Anyway, Christ was asked, what was the greatest of the laws, of the commandments? And Christ said, love God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength. In the name of Jesus Christ thou shalt serve. We should love God. And there's lots of talks and things. Hi, Savannah Sanchez. I'm so excited. We're Facebook friends. Alexi, my good people that I love, that I haven't seen. So anyway, I've heard a lot of sermons and a lot of talks. I've read lots of talks and things about what it means to love God and how we do that. And basically, what I have discovered for myself is that it means to put Him first and to put God first in our life. And that means different things to different people. But as I go to bed at night, I take inventory of my day and I think about, have I done any good in the world today? And what I realize when I do that is I can see some things I need to improve. And I always ask myself, did I put God first? And would that be obvious if a detective were investigating me? Could they see that? And then the second commandment, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And I've been reading some articles about what it means to love thy neighbor as thyself, and how we are really hard on ourselves, and usually the person we don't love the most is ourselves. And I read an article yesterday that talked about how what that may mean is love our neighbor as Christ loves us. Maybe not as how we love ourselves, because as we all know, there's all kinds of flaws that we see, but maybe more like how Christ sees us. We should love our neighbor as Christ sees us. So this morning, I've been really thinking about where Christ spent his time when he was on the earth. And he spent his time with those just like you and me who are mucking things up. And so, if we are truly to love each other, Christ didn't say, love only your Christian neighbor. He didn't say, love only your neighbor that's the same race as you. He didn't say to love only your neighbor who is the same faith as you. It didn't say to love your neighbor who is the same sexuality as you. He said to love your neighbor. Hi, Michelle Lee Ray Joyce. And he said simply to love your neighbor. And, sorry, I'm real emotional about this today. And one of the things, my granddaughter's calling for me, so in a minute, Kezzy, I'm outside. She got a new Harry Potter game.
I have to buy it.
No, Kezzy, you're not buying anything on the game. Sorry, sweetie.
No, look, out of energy.
You're out of energy. Well, then you'll have to say, "I'll wait."
No, I can't.
I'm sorry, you can't buy.
I can't.
Okay, so, time out, friends. Kezzy, I'm on here. We'll talk. You can't. I'm not going to buy any. Okay, you'll have to earn it. Figure out how to earn energy on your game. So, anyway.
I'm like,
So, yesterday. Was it yesterday? I told you the story about John. And what it meant to love him. And how he showed his love to me. Anyway, I think, and this is totally one of my opinions, but I think that sometimes those of us who profess to be Christian are the most judgmental people out there. And I'll just say this, and I'll probably get blasted, but I think that often members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are some of the most judgmental and people. And they're my people. And I think that we need to learn in our lives to look beyond our upbringings or beyond our environment that we grew up in. And now's the time to love as Christ loves, which is for who they are and not what they are. Christ, he just said to love your neighbor. He didn't say, anyway. So it gets complicated, I guess, when we look at people and we like, well, I can't condone your behavior. It's against the commandments or it's against the law or whatever. Well, okay, maybe so, but we all do those things. Christ did not say to only love your neighbor who is faithful to their wife or their husband. He said to love adulterers too. In fact, one of my favorite stories in the scriptures is how he loved the adulteress. Now, they're not keeping the commandments of God, but we're to love them anyway. And to love them as Christ loves us would be to see past their faults and see them as children and sons and daughters of God. So, in my career as a teacher, one of the coolest things is these kiddos come to me the way they are. And I'm expected to teach them English. And each of them come with their own. Agree. Alexis Bryson just said, she said, I think it's important to remember Christ's love for us is without condition. We should love without condition too. And so I've been trying to reconcile some things as a Christian on how I can be a true follower of Christ and at the same time truly love my neighbor. Because there are things that people do that aren't okay, or that are against God's commandments, or whatever. But I'm getting so, that's not up to me. In fact, we're taught that, right? We're not the judge. God's the judge. And even those who've been given specific positions in churches of authority, of priesthood, of pastorship, they too are asked to love first. Remember the 2 commandments? Love God and love our neighbor. And then what I love is the next sentence in that scripture, which is in Matthew. It says, and thus hang all the law and the prophets. Ever thought about that? What that means? All the laws and all the prophets to do 2 things. Not to judge, and let God do that. So as these kiddos come to me, I have had to face some of my own personal prejudices that I didn't really know that I had sometimes. Until I'm faced with a kiddo who I am expected to love for who they are on the first day. And yeah, I love what Michelle Joyce just said in the comments. And I hope if you haven't watched my video from yesterday about John, it was one of my biggest lessons as a teacher on loving people when we don't know their story. So we are very, very blessed to live in a time in which people are standing up for the right to be themselves. Whatever, okay? So, and of course we can look back how it started a long time ago. And I'm grateful the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was passed, and that opened the gate so that we can truly start looking at ourselves and saying, this is what I am, and I need to work on some things about. Because of my environment, because how I was raised, I can choose whether or not I keep conditioned to those things or not. So, I want to have us all think about the judgments that we pass on people of faith and how we hurt others by not accepting them for what they are. And we use this idea of, well, is that what they're doing is against the commandments. So, yeah. So I just feel today very, very much that we need to look deeply. One of the groups that I see still very much marginalized in my communities in which I've lived that are very white, very Christian, very middle of the road, are our LGBTQ people. When I was a kiddo here in Casper, Wyoming, no one was out. And I remember one kid, our senior year, sort of outing himself at a talent show. Okay. And no one was surprised. But it wasn't something talked about openly. And in fact, gay bashing and was accepted, right? Well, as I've gotten older and I've had the opportunity to be among lots and lots of people, people are not in the closet as much as they used to be. And I'm especially at a younger and younger age. Now, teaching 8th grade kids is an interesting thing when it comes to sexuality. Of course, they're exploring that like crazy, and all these feelings and facial hair and voice changing and all those things that happen at that age. And some are very, very open about their sexuality, whether they're gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual. Some aren't. They're quiet about it. Well, there's one other thing that kids still throw around a little bit, trying to hurt each other. Even though we know that the racism stuff happens, it's not openly acceptable to be racist like that. So, as of racial tension where we're exploding about accepting people, maybe, just maybe, we also need to consider all of the sexualities out there. We're all starting to stand up and say, let's just let us be who we are. Whether we agree with what we're doing or not. Because that's what we're supposed to. One of my favorite stories in the Bible is of the Good Samaritan. But you have to understand the cultural differences between the Jews, which Christ was, and the Samaritans. They hated each other. They were of the same race and nationality, but they hated each other because of their belief systems. But Christ taught us that we are to go across the street and pick up our neighbor who's been beaten by those who are bigoted and prejudiced and hateful simply because of the way someone is. In those stories, do you ever notice how, the Good Samaritan, he doesn't go up and say, well, I'll only help you if you're straight. No. He didn't care. He helped him because he was a human being and needed help. So, connection issues. My heart is heavy that we are so caught up in others and their choices that we can't simply love them. Some people say, how can you love somebody when you don't know anything about them? And the cynical, cool thing is to be a cynic these days. Like, well, if other people can hate without knowing anybody, then why can't I love? So, anyway, today there's a landmark decision by the Supreme Court that I am rejoicing in, that people's sexuality cannot be the basis of their employment. And they cannot be fired for their gender identity or their sexuality. That's great. That's great. So, I guess I'm just going to choose to love. And let all that, the decisions of the judgment and of who is accountable for what, let that be up to God. Because only God truly knows the measure of a man's heart. And where they come from and why they are the way they are. And I'm going to continue to accept those. I'm going to continue to look at myself and try to fish out any prejudices that I have. Try to figure that out. So I guess this is a plea today. To be kind. To get involved. And to follow God's commandments of loving God first, and then loving our neighbor as Christ sees us, complete, worth it, worth that atonement and that redemption and that crucifixion. Each one of us were. And so, yeah, I guess this is a little preachy today, but it's weighing on me today, the sadness of my soul. We just can't like each other for who we are. In The Green Mile, the movie, it talks about this issue in a way that I've never thought about before. And yes, there's the race issue, right? Kinda. But it really isn't about race. It's about choices. And we have the guards in the prison on death row who treat the prisoners as human beings. Now, they know what they did. And they know what they did wasn't good. And they know they are being punished and they need to be. But they have a respect for them because they're human beings. And then there's that one guard who thinks he's better than them because he isn't a criminal. And he's a police officer, a guard, and he has power, and his daddy or uncle or whatever, I can't remember. Yeah. And he treats them like crap because they're criminals, because of their actions, and they've earned that. And then there's that scene where I can't remember the main character's name. It's driving me crazy. Not the Tom Hanks character. Anyway, the prisoner with the powers. Anyway, how Coffey is his last name. John Coffey? Is that it? John Coffey. How John says that he's just tired. And how it's okay that he dies for a crime that he didn't commit. Because he's just tired of how we treat each other. And I think that's how I'm feeling today. I'm just tired. Those of us who can love people without the judgment is so much. We all judge different things. But that we can look beyond and see our own issues and simply accept. Welcome those people on that pew next to us at church. For whoever they are. Help and love. And so I guess that's what I want to say today. To show a little bit more kindness to everybody. No matter what. And just to be. And to be a little bit more obvious sometimes of what we're doing. I know we're not supposed to serve out openly for our own accolades, but I don't mean that. I mean, maybe we need to speak up and stand on the side for love and kindness. And what does that mean? There you have it. Okay,